What's up everybody, my name is Alex, and in this video I want to look at what it takes to become an Airbnb Superhost, and most importantly, how you can become one. I will cover the requirements of becoming a Superhost. I will then tell you how I personally did it, and also we will look at the challenges and the mistakes that you should definitely avoid if you want to become one. Stay tuned till the end because I'll share some extra tips throughout this video for you to understand how you can not only achieve this status but also maintain it. And with that, sit back, relax, and enjoy the video. First of all, let's cover the requirements, and there are 4 requirements towards becoming a superhost. The most important one is the overall rating, and Airbnb looks at it very strictly, and you have to achieve a 4.8 or higher to be considered as a superhost. In comparison to other websites like Booking, a 5-star rating is really hard and competitive to achieve, and most importantly, it's super difficult to maintain. So in this case, you should really carefully look at how you are hosting, replying to your customers and taking care of them, because even a 3-star rating might ruin your overall rating. Nevertheless, if you get this rating, don't feel desperate because there are many ways how you can solve it, and I will tell you about a couple of them in the next few minutes. The next requirement is to have 10 completed stays or 100 nights over 3 completed stays throughout the past year. So in the case that you're looking at long-term renting and you have customers who rent your apartment, let's say, for a longer period of time, you don't necessarily need a lot of stays. You better look at how many nights they stayed in there so you achieve the 100 minimum standard. Yet in the case that you have more than 1 listings, it's pretty easy and simple to look at the first part of this requirement and to have more than 10 stays. Yet bear in mind that if you have a lot of stays and more frequent travelers, then you will actually have to invest more in maintenance. So that's also a strategy that you should consider before doing the Airbnb game. The third requirement, which is one of the hardest to be maintained, is to have less than 1% cancellation rate. This means that in case you had 100 stays throughout this past year, then you actually don't have to have any cancellations from your side as a host whatsoever. And to make it more clear, this applies to you as a host or superhost in this case. You don't have to cancel and maintain this rate towards achieving again this superhost status. In case you have more listings, then you will have to look at your calendar very frequently, compare it to all your other calendars, and ensure that you don't have any missed bookings on any of these platforms so that it doesn't happen that your rate goes over 1%. Also, you might consider disabling the instant booking option, which will allow you eventually to avoid the double bookings from any other engine. The fourth and last requirement is to have a response rate which is higher than 90%, and that means that if a customer messages you, then you are expected to reply to his message through the first 24 hours of the request. In the case that you have a lot of listings and they're placed throughout different engines and platforms, then you have to actually consider the option of a quick reply, which can solve a lot of these issues and can answer instantly to your customers' requests. And to make it more understandable to you, which is actually something that I was also lacking understanding with, is that it doesn't necessarily need you to accept this booking or to have this booking as confirmed to be considered in the 90+% of response rate. You just simply have to answer to that customer inquiry for your listing, and that's it. Finally, the most important thing that you should be aware of is that if you miss just a slide of any of these 4 requirements, then you won't be considered for the superhost status in the next period. So be careful with that and take care of all these 4 requirements equally so that you can achieve the superhost status very soon. The evaluation for the Superhost status is made every 3 months by Airbnb. So if you haven't done it this month or the next month, you should actually go into your insights. You can click on Superhost status and understand where are you at this right moment and when is the next assessment period. Airbnb also shows you if you have met this criteria and which one is lacking or not, so you can see the ticks there, and that helps you a lot with understanding where and how you can improve. I hope this covers the requirements pretty well. And now let me tell you a little bit about my very own experience and share what are the actual benefits that I felt are important from the Superhost status. And also I'll tell you about the mistakes that I made and you should definitely avoid. So in my very own case, I have tried becoming a Superhost for a couple of times actually. It didn't happen from the first time. However, that's a very good experience to understand how you can actually build your Airbnb profile, how you can reply to the customers, how to set up those very quick answers, and how to make it work very smoothly to actually be able to not only achieve the Superhost status, but also maintain and have it throughout many years. When I first started renting on Airbnb, I didn't really have any experience and I didn't really have any people around me who were doing this. So I actually had to learn it by myself and through mistakes, which is why I didn't really have and didn't really aim for having the Superhost status right away. I was simply looking at how the platform actually works, understanding every single part of it, and basically trying to give the best experience possible to my client. Some of you might know that I started Airbnb hosting in Bali together with my partners in there. So that's actually a really good place to understand how everything works because there is a lot of demand and you will have a lot of inquiries as well from your guests. So everything comes into play when you host in Bali. You don't actually have to wait too long to get your first inquiries because there is a lot of demand and honestly there is not enough supply, and specifically supply of very good high-end places. Which is why after I have completed my listing, I wrote all the description and all the information under it and provided this to Airbnb for listing it. It only took a matter of a few hours to receive my first inquiry and to also close the deal for my first reservation. So in this case, I would say that the market played a really big role because it wasn't really hard to get the inquiries. The most important thing was actually closing them and maintaining that very good rating or reputation that I built throughout some years, and have more clients coming over and over again. In my very first experience, I actually got a couple of lower ratings, and that was because I didn't really know how to do maintenance of the house well. I actually had to employ a couple of people, and I didn't at the beginning because I thought I can manage it with the only stuff that I already had at that time. So I had to learn through those bad ratings, and actually what I did is I actually created a new listing and started it all over again with better in-house equipment, with better stuff, and by better I mean actually even more stuff, more people, because there were actually required a lot on the site. After building my team up and having everything ready towards scaling this business and getting the Superhost status, I was ready to start thinking and also tracking the results that we currently have and trying to achieve the Superhost status. I was really careful with the calendar so we don't have double bookings, any kind of other overbookings or misunderstandings from the customers. I have also built a Instagram profile, which is by Agora Homes, and you can also check it out as well, where I have started posting more and more about our locations and what we offer on site, so people have not only Airbnb as a place of inspiration or understanding the reviews and so on, but they can also check us out and reach through Instagram. I was also carefully reading all the reviews that I was getting from my Airbnb customers, replying to all of them, which is very important to keep this flow working well. And most importantly, I was trying to automate everything in a good way. So I actually spend my time on more significant, important tasks than just replying that first message, let's say, because there are customers who need more support. And if you have to reply to every single inquiry that just comes in, then you will have to lose a lot of time for that. I have also created a few badges for ratings and reviews. We left it in our properties, and at the end of the stays, we have always been asking our customers to leave us a good review if they were feeling good about it, about the stay, about the staff and the facilities, which was something that worked pretty well for us. So I think if you want to have this momentum of reviews, of the good ones specifically coming in quicker, then you might have to think about this strategy as well. I have also been carefully reading all the details of those reviews, not only the overall description, but where we were actually lacking something from the customer side. So every time we were trying to improve in that area, maybe get some better linen, for example, if it was old, or repair the bathrooms, or just do some refurbishments in the garden. Because trust me, the customer will actually notice, and especially if they read the reviews and they see the changes, then you will most likely get even better recommendations from them to their friends as well. Besides all this, we were also trying to implement a very good pricing strategy, offer discounts for longer stays, for example, a weekly 10 to 15% discount and a monthly 25 to even up to 35% discounts. And also for even longer stays, because believe me or not, we actually had stays longer than a year. We were also happily offering a even extra slightly bigger discount. Most importantly, specifically when you have more listings, is to actually keep the place well maintained. And if you're only focusing on frequent travelers and giving your rooms every single night or two, then this will actually might lead to damaging your place, and you will have to invest a lot of funds into repairing it or refurbishing it. Which is why another thing that I did was implementing the minimum night stay. For some places we have 2 nights, for others we have even a week minimum. As in my case, I was really focusing and targeting the long-term customer who comes in for a week to a few months, and that's also the customer that we prefer because we will only focus on them. We don't need to do check-ins and outs, so my staff can actually focus on serving that customer better, doing the maintenance and everything else required. And finally, one of another important factors that I was always trying to keep a look on is cancellation rate. I was trying to talk to the customers and understand why they want to cancel or why they ask us to cancel, so that we can actually avoid this. Maybe there is a way to recover that or give them some extra discount if they were unsatisfied with something, and that will actually allow me in the end to keep and maintain that 90% plus rate. If we speak and look at the actual listings that we had, I was always trying to also not only leave them alone for a long period of time. I was adding new, fresher pictures. I was improving the description. I was adding extra services in there. For example, rental of bikes, which is a very important thing in Bali. I've also added some other services like dry washing and airport pickups. And overall, the customer understands that he had a 5-star experience, and he sees where his money actually went and what was the value that he gained out of it. And if that match happens, then most definitely you will achieve that superhost status. Now, if we speak about the real benefits of being a superhost, one which is the most important for me is actually the great customer support from Airbnb towards us, the hosts. Because there are a lot of things that you can actually ask or avoid as a superhost. like in cases where you have not the best customers, they were damaging your place, or they were inquiring for a booking but you want to decline it, then if you are a Superhost, you can actually talk to the customer support from Airbnb and they can understand your situation better because they saw that you're already doing a lot and you put the effort to become the Superhost. So this usually means that you actually hosted a lot of people with great impressions of your place. Of course, you also get a Superhost badge on your Airbnb profile, and that everyone knows that you are a Superhost, and when they access your profile or they access the listing, they can see this badge and understand that most probably they will have a good experience. Your listings are also promoted to many other guests in different marketing emails or in the top list when they search for some places in that specific region or area. This promotion honestly was super helpful to us because in Bali there were a lot of other Airbnb hosts, and having your listings on top of the list when the customer searches in that specific area helps a lot with your booking rates. As a Superhost, you also get access to earlier features, and you can be the first one who would test them and get ready to host and use those features in the next few months. You might also be invited to test a few of them that haven't even been released. So you are actually inputting something into Airbnb and the community, and you can see the results coming afterwards. Financially speaking, you also have two other benefits. First of all is getting that $100 Airbnb coupon if you achieve and maintain the Superhost status throughout 1 year. Then you receive that coupon and you can redeem it throughout all and any listings on Airbnb in the next year. Secondly, you get also an extra referral bonus for any other hosts or friends that want to start hosting on Airbnb. You get 20% extra for that referral link. And although this bonus varies in different countries and regions, you will still get more than anyone else in that region who is not a Superhost. Therefore, overall, as a Superhost on Airbnb, you will actually have more visibility, which will lead towards increasing your earnings. And the exclusive rewards also come in nicely as the cherry on the top. However, in my personal case, honestly, the priority Airbnb support has been the best number one reward that I get as a Superhost, because honestly we have over 20 listings and we always have to deal with different customers, and once in a while, it doesn't really happen often, usually it happens once in, let's say, 6 to 8 months, we get a bad customer. And by that I mean someone who requires more, is very demanding, doesn't like anything that is told to him, and he's actually trying to argue with you as a host. You actually have the access to that Airbnb priority line. You can call them, you can email them, you can even chat to them 24/7, and they will be the ones who will help you and guide you towards achieving that solution. To complement what I just said, a hidden reward that I also used only once actually, but it was really good, is that Airbnb Superhosts can actually reach out to that priority support, and if they explain everything well, they can actually be able to cancel the guest reservation prior to them arriving to your place and not being penalized for that. And that specifically applies for the Superhosts who have been on the platform for longer than at least 1 or 2 years, because they have the history, and if you have really good ratings, then the priority support will actually look at you as a professional, and if you give everything explained well with details, and you can even provide the conversation snapshots with your guest, then trust me, the support line will actually be understanding and they will actually try to help you in this case instead of the guest. Obviously, use it right and use it only where you actually need it. If you have a feeling that this guest might be very troubling and difficult to you and might actually leave a bad review afterwards, you can go on and try to use it. However, I wouldn't recommend it. Usually, I would recommend you to understand and speak to the guest more and see whether you can solve this on the spot. Now, if we speak about the mistakes that I personally made throughout these 4.5 years now as a superhost, the one that I really have to mention is not answering to all the requests. At some point in time, I don't know why, but I actually forgot that this is a criteria to become a superhost, and that was the only and first time when we actually lost the status because of this negligence. Although I already mentioned this before, really try to consider all these 4 requirements to be a superhost, and most importantly to maintain the status, because you can see from my very own experience I have actually neglected one, and because I only achieved 89%, which is just 1% under the rate of acceptance, I have been disqualified for 3 months as a superhost, and honestly, this actually impacted my earnings as well. And to give you that in numbers, we have made around 20% less throughout those 3 months because we were not superhosts and we were not really advertised anywhere. The customers probably weren't really getting any notifications regarding our listings, or when they were searching through the platform, they weren't really seeing our listings first because we were just hosts at that time. And most probably, I believe if you're downgraded from a superhost, you are kinda shadow banned for a very small time. Another mistake that I have made is hosting anyone and absolutely everyone who was inquiring about my listings and not really caring about their history. You should always check the history of your customer, and if you see that they had some bad reviews in the past from other hosts, you might actually consider not making money out of this customer, leaving your listing free if you can afford this, of course, and avoid hosting him. Yes, in the short term, you might not make as much money as you planned, but believe me, in the long term, if anything happened to your listing or your place when they arrived, or if they left you a very bad review, this will most probably ruin your Airbnb profile and you will have to just start it again. The biggest challenge with being a superhost is actually maintaining that status. I've mentioned that before in this video, however, that's a real challenge that you have to always keep in mind and be responsible for having that status and maintaining it throughout the next months or even years. Always go to your Superhost page and try to track all the requirements at least once a week or at least once in a fortnight, because you might just miss one of them and then it's going to be too late. The second challenge with being a superhost is actually also maintenance, but in a physical form, which basically means maintaining your place so that it actually looks like in the pictures and it has everything that you described in the description section. Because at some point you might feel that you're doing everything right and you have all this tracking in place, you're kind of achieving everything, but just because your listing is not updated and the people are expecting something but receiving something else, then you will actually start getting those reviews. And when you start getting those, all your tracking will basically go downhill. Although I was saying that I was always trying to update the listings and provide all the requirement and necessary information in there, I actually had this experience a while ago when I was just starting before this business. I forgot to update the listings with some pictures, and there was something going on with the bathroom, for example, and we were actually repairing it, but just because I didn't mention it or I didn't put it in pictures, I got a few very bad customer reviews about it and I had to just restart it all over again. To close up this episode, I want to give you 2 more extra tips, which I kind of mentioned them before, but I think it's important for you to know. If you're just starting out, then try to look at this as an experience and try to just improve yourself and not really focus on the Superhost status. And with that, if you get a bad customer review, try to actually improve yourself on that. But if it's really damaging your profile, and let's say you got a 1 star, the customer was furious about some things that you can actually repair but you didn't know about them, then I actually advise you to delete that listing and just start all over again. Just from my very own experience, if you try to continue building on that listing, even though you have improved and you have added the service or you solved that issue that the customer mentioned in the review, that review is always going to be there and is going to damage your profile. So better just start it all over again and try to be the best that you can possibly be in that case. And the second one, which mainly applies to those who are just starting out or to those who have more than one listings, is to actually try to switch off the instant booking and rather have a pre-approval for all your listings. Although Airbnb doesn't really suggest this, because obviously with instant bookings you probably have more reservations and you get a higher rate for that. In case you are just starting out, you might miss out on something, or you just might have a double booking on a different platform because you just don't have the experience of managing the calendar right or answering to all the requests. So to avoid this, I highly suggest that you take out the instant booking and just leave the pre-approval. The same applies to those who have more listings. When you have a lot of them and you have to answer to every single one and also match all the calendars from one engine to another one and have this all aggregated, is really hard to follow up. And even I currently, after almost 5 years of doing Airbnb, I'm still using pre-approvals for many of my listings just because I don't want to miss out on anything. A pre-approval also gives you 24 hours to reply to that customer, so you have some time to actually analyze the calendar, the possibility of hosting that customer, also analyze their reviews in the past. Remember what I just mentioned a few minutes ago. So that's actually helpful not only in the aspect that you might get double bookings, but you can also select your customers and be more responsible towards this. Anyway, I hope that you found these insights useful, and if you did so, please comment all your thoughts, ideas, and any other recommendations or suggestions that you might have so I can use them in the next video.